An art journal tutorial by Creative Katie. That's me, Karen Burchill. Featuring two techniques, the crackle technique and stamping with Inktense Blocks. Special hello to the Heart Journal magazine subscribers. Speaking of subscribers, you know what to do.
Hi everybody, Karen Burchill, Creative Katie. Today we are going to do two different techniques as we create an art journal page. And I'm going to create an art journal page similar to this iCAD in here. So we are going to do two techniques. One technique is we are going to use crackle medium. Now this is folk art crackle medium, just in a different bottle. And there are other brands that you can purchase. Each are a little bit different, so read the instructions and do what yours says. So we're going to do crackle, and then we're going to do a technique where we are going to stamp using Inktense Blocks. If you know me at all, you know I love my Inktense Blocks, and I came up with this way of using the Inktense Blocks to stamp with because I don't have 15 different colors or 30 different colors of stamp pads, and sometimes you want to have a certain color. So off camera I pre-gessoed this is my Canson mixed media journal. There's a few pages left in here. So I did a coat of white gesso and I've applied a couple coats of raw umbered Liquidex Basics on there. And I'm not overly concerned about the different seeing the brush strokes or anything because we're going to cover this up. Now, next, what I'm going to do is apply the folk art crackle medium across the entire surface. Now, doing the crackle technique on an iCAD or on a ATC is perfect because it's a very small space and very easy for you to do the whole thing. When you're approaching a page like this, it's really important to maybe work in different sections at a time. But for the application of the folk art crackle, I'm going to do it all, but this next step. So this is completely dry. Now, what it says is to put a thin layer of this on the page on top. So what you see, the brown, is going to be the color that's going to peek through the crackle. You can use a credit card to do this. I just find I have the most control and I can spread it pretty thin with my palette knife. But if you don't have a palette knife, there is ways around it. Better than a brush, I find. Okay, so close up your medium and I'm just going to let that dry and I will come back when it's dry. So instead of doing a commercial, I'm going to talk about how to use the Inktense Blocks to stamp. So on this card, you can see I've stamped with some script stamp and with a flower stamp or swirl stamp. So I'm going to stamp using my Inktense Blocks. So I'm going to just do a slight demo of that just ahead of time, and then once that's dry, we have the crackle, we can just proceed with that. So I'm just going to pick a color here. It doesn't really matter which one. I'm actually going to pick a couple here. and I have this Dilutions stamp ready on my acrylic block. So what you need is a spray bottle. This is just plain old tap water. And what you need to do is you need to pull the spray away from the stamp. You do not want to spray directly on it because you're going to get too much water and you're going to end up with a very messy stamp. I'm going for a little bit more clear. It's still going to have that watercolor feel, but so I'm going to spray from, it's close to 2 feet, and I'm just spraying. Now I'm going to take the Inktense block. Just going to zoom in here a little bit, and I'm just rubbing it on its side. Now this is why, now it's kind of dried up, so I'm going to spray from afar again. Now if you have too much water on here, you're going to have to clean a little bit up. Put it on the page where you want it and press and lift straight up. Okay, so right there, it was very dry. Did not have enough water, so I'm just going to spray. So you may want to practice this a few times before you start doing it on a page to get the feel for it. Even after I've done it, I do a couple dry runs beforehand. So there we go. Place, press, lift. So there you can see there's a little bit more of a watercolor look, and I'm okay with that. But if you're not, this might not be the technique for you. I'm just going to give that a quick dry before I move on. So the benefit of being able to use your Inktense blocks, I have a black, a green, and a blue, and a brown. That's all the stamp pads that I have. With my Inktense blocks, I now potentially have 72 different colors that I can use. What I can also do on the stamp is mix colors to create something completely unique and special with my stamp. Now I got a lot of water on here, so I'm just taking a few seconds to get rid of that because I don't want that on my page. Place, press, and lift up. Sometimes you can get 2 stamps. Lift up. Now, there is an alternative to applying that directly onto the stamp, and I'm going to just show you that. I'm going to just zoom out. Before that, I'm just going to show you using a just basic kitchen sponge. This is great for cleaning the stamps out, and you do want to get that ink out of this. This is ink, and it's supposed to dry permanent. It doesn't always, especially if it hasn't been completely activated. So I find that a sponge gets it all up. The other way of doing it that I've found is to use a silicone baking sheet. And I just bought this at the dollar store. It's very pliable. So what I would do here is put water down and then liquefy some of the pigment. And if you just had the Inktense pencils, you could do this and then stamp with them. And then you can press the stamp into that. And I'm kind of wanting to get this mottled effect, and I often stamp off once and press. And you can see the lovely combination of colors that you can get on your sponge. With this, I find that you have a little bit more control using the silicone mat. But if you don't have that, applying it directly, just practice that. Again, clean your stamp with the sponge. So there you have it. So what I have in here, I had the leftovers of the raw umber that I had just added a little bit of water to in this little dish. And I'm just added titanium white, and I'm just putting a smidge of the raw umber because I want to make kind of a cream color, and I don't have that, so I just want to take the edge off the white. And I am putting a little bit of water in this so I can, it goes on just a little bit easier. And I'm putting little bits of the brown at a time because I don't want it to get too brown, but I don't want it to get white. And I see that in the camera this looks very white, but you're gonna have to trust me when I say that it is not completely white. There we go. That's it. You can just get a little bit more of that undertone in there. Okay, so I'll be back when it's all dry. Okay, so I think I'm ready. It's all dry. And I have my paint over here, and I have it on the widest brush that I have. And I'm thinking instead of going this way, I was going to do it in quadrants, but I'm going to just kind of do it this way. And you don't want to go back and touch it. You don't want to touch it up again. You need to just make one clear swoop and let it go, because it will start, or should start, to crackle. Now crackle, I've had good success with it and I've had horrible success with it. So here's hoping. I'm not following my own rules very well, am I? Just want to touch that up. And as you can see, I'm going to zoom in. It is crackling. So we are in luck today. It crackled. It is one of those things, I've had it go really well and I've had it go horrible. So, and I don't know what I'm doing differently each time, but suffice it to say, there's a little element of luck in there. So I'm just going to let this dry. I'm really happy with the crackles that I have here. So we're going to let that dry, and we will come back and we will do the stamping with the Inktense blocks. Okay, so everything's dry. I'm just going to give you a close-up of the wonderful crackle. So I'm very happy it all worked out.
So I'm going to speed up now for the rest of the video because I'm just finishing the journal page. I'm using the Inktense block and I'm rubbing it on the stamp like I showed earlier. And I'm not too worried if I don't get a precise stamp or a very dark one. I want variety. I want this to look kind of aged and natural. So I'm just applying, spritzing it with my water bottle every now and then to get it a little bit wetter. Now you do have time to, if you don't like it or it smudges or you get too much water, to go and gently rub it off. But if you rub too hard, you will disturb the crackle finish. I know because I've done that. So now I'm going to use the stamp, the script stamp, and this time I'm rubbing the Inktense block on the plastic. I just find that it gets a better print with this stamp. So it's trial and error. This is kind of the tealy color, which you really can't make out from this distance. So I'm just going to heat dry that and before I smudge it. So I have some free printables that I got by searching free printables butterflies on Pinterest, and I fussy cut them out as I was watching TV one day. And so now I'm just kind of, rehearsing where they're going to go, so I have an idea. Now before I go any further, I am going to spray this with Spectrafix. It is a spray fixative that will make sure that the Inktense blocks don't reactivate. Sometimes they aren't fully activated and they do reactivate when you're adding gel medium or something else, and so I just do a spritz like that. I use Spectrafix because it's all natural and it doesn't cause me migraines, and it can be used inside, but other spray fixatives will work too. If you skip that step, you're just going to have to be very careful when applying any wet medium on it. So now I'm taking my Inktense blocks and I rubbed around the edges. This was kind of happened off camera, and I'm getting the dark brown color around the edges. Now I'm taking the brown, two colors, brown and more of the sepia, and I'm just activating it with my liner brush. I'm using the liner brush instead of my small round because I was just too lazy to go and find it. I've got some of my art materials are in British Columbia already, some of them are downstairs, and some of them have been brought upstairs because I can't do stairs very well right now because of my back problems. So here's another way. If you don't have the pencils, you can just rub it against the block and using a liner brush. It takes some practice, but you can get it. So I'm deciding to kind of color or kind of make it look a little bit more distressed. My quote at the bottom, I had cut out the word letters hope, and that stands for have only positive expectations, and that's been kind of my mantra for these last couple months when life just kind of sped up and got a little crazy on us. And I'm just using the brown color on it. Now once I was done, the letters for the word hope weren't standing out. So what I'm doing here is I am outlining them in the same tealy color that I used to stamp, and I am activating it with water on my round brush. I did find it. This is the next day. I found the letters just weren't standing out as much as I would have liked, and I just wanted to add a little bit more of that tealy blue color to the mix. So I just did that, and it works much better with a round brush than the liner brush. So I'm going around the edge with the Inktense block and pencil in the blue color, just again to introduce more of that blue on top of the brown that I already put there. I'm just rubbing it with my finger, activating with water, just till I get a look that I like. So this is my pouring medium, and I don't use pouring medium for what it's meant to. It's glossy, and so I just want those butterflies, the colors to shine out a little bit more, to pop, and I find by putting a little bit of pouring medium on top, it does that. So I slowed it down here just to give you a close-up look of all this grungy, vintagey yumminess. I just love how these colors work together, the teal, the brown, and the off-white. Just work so well. Right there you saw some of where the crackle lifted a little bit, but it adds to the overall vintage feel of this page. I got the inspiration for this color scheme by looking at some free printables and stealing the ideas of the color scheme. Thank you so much for joining me. A special hello to all the Heart Journal Magazine subscribers. Speaking of subscribers, if you're not a subscriber, hit the button on the lower right-hand corner and hit the possibility to get notified, and you won't miss another video. See you next time.